Hello, everyone, and welcome to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so happy to have you here with me today. Whether you are listening on your morning commute, while you are cooking dinner, or perhaps just relaxing at home with a cup of tea, I want you to take a deep breath and get ready for a lesson that is going to change the way you experience English conversations. We are going to tackle one of the biggest challenges for English learners at the intermediate level, which is the feeling of getting lost when people are speaking fast, or when a conversation moves from one topic to another very quickly. Have you ever been in a situation where you are talking to a native speaker or watching a movie, and everything starts well, but then suddenly you realize you have lost the thread of the story? You find yourself nodding your head and smiling, pretending to understand. But inside your mind, there is a little bit of panic because you are not sure if they are talking about their job, their vacation, or their cat. Do not worry because you are not alone in this feeling. It happens to almost everyone who is learning a new language. Today, we are going to slow things down. We are going to learn how to track ideas step by step, how to follow the flow of a conversation easily, and how to relax your brain so you can understand more. By the end of this session, you will feel much more confident entering any conversation. Let us start by imagining a conversation as a journey. When you go on a journey, you do not just teleport from the beginning to the end. You pass through different streets, you turn corners, and sometimes you stop to look at a view. A conversation is exactly the same. It travels from one idea to the next. The secret to following this journey is not to try and understand every single word. If you try to catch every single word, your brain will get tired very quickly. Instead, you need to look for the signposts. These are the clues that tell you where the conversation is going. We are going to practice identifying these signposts through stories about everyday situations, and we are going to break them down together. I want you to relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and just let the English flow over you. Do not stress about grammar right now. Just focus on the story and the ideas. Our first story is about two friends named Daniel and Chloe. Daniel and Chloe have not seen each other for a long time, and they meet by chance in a busy supermarket. I want you to listen carefully to the flow of their conversation. Usually, when friends meet like this, the conversation has a very specific structure. It starts with a greeting, then moves to a life update, and often ends with a plan to meet again. Knowing this structure helps you predict what is coming next. Imagine you are standing there in the supermarket aisle next to the pasta and tomato sauce, watching Daniel and Chloe. Daniel is the first one to speak. He sees Chloe, and his eyes go wide with surprise. He calls out her name and walks over with a big smile. He asks her how she has been, which is the standard way to open this kind of dialogue. Chloe is also surprised and happy. She tells him that she has been great, but very busy. Now, this is the first important moment to track. When someone says they are busy, the natural next step in the conversation is to explain why they are busy. As a listener, you should expect to hear about work, or family, or perhaps a new project. This expectation helps your brain prepare for the vocabulary related to those topics. Chloe explains that she started a new job at a graphic design company about 2 months ago. Now, if you are listening to this, you might hear the words graphic design and worry that you do not know specific technical terms. but you do not need to know them. You just need to track the main idea. Chloe has a new job. Daniel responds by congratulating her. He asks if she likes the new role. Chloe sighs a little bit, which is a sound that gives you a massive clue. A sigh usually means something is difficult or tiring. She admits that she loves the creative part of the work, but the commute is terrible. She has to drive for an hour every morning and an hour every evening. Daniel listens and nods. He connects with her feeling and says that he understands completely because he used to have a long drive to his old office. Notice what just happened there. The topic shifted slightly from the job itself to the travel time, and Daniel used a personal memory to show empathy. This is a common pattern in English conversation. One person shares a struggle, and the other person shares a similar struggle to show support. Now, let us go deeper into this interaction between Daniel and Chloe. After discussing the traffic, Daniel decides to change the topic. He uses a very useful phrase. He says, "Anyway, enough about work. How is your brother doing?" The word "anyway" is a signpost. It tells you that the previous topic is finished. We are closing the box on work and traffic. We are opening a new box. If you miss this signpost, you might be confused why they are suddenly talking about a person named Mark. But because you heard "anyway," you know a shift is happening. Chloe smiles instantly. This emotional shift tells you the news is good. She says that her brother Mark just got engaged to his girlfriend, Sarah. Daniel is thrilled to hear this. He remembers Mark from when they were in school. They spend a few moments talking about the engagement party, discussing when it might happen and where it might be held. I want you to pause for a second and think about what we just did. We tracked the conversation through 3 distinct stages. Stage 1 was the surprise meeting and the job update. Stage 2 was the complaint about traffic. Stage 3 was the news about the brothers' engagement. If you try to remember every adjective Chloe used to describe her office, you might miss the part about her brother. But if you focus on these 3 big blocks, job, traffic, family, you have successfully followed the conversation. This is the key to B1 listening. It is about zooming out and seeing the big picture. When you listen to English, try to build these blocks in your mind. Think to yourself, okay, now they are talking about work. Now they are talking about family. This mental labeling keeps you focused. Let us try another scenario with new characters to practice this skill of tracking ideas. This time, we are going to overhear a conversation between a woman named Sophia and a man named Liam. They are colleagues sitting in a break room at their office, having coffee. The atmosphere is a bit more serious than the supermarket meeting. Sophia looks a little bit stressed. She is holding a piece of paper and frowning at it. Liam notices her expression and asks if everything is okay. This is the hook of the conversation. It sets up a problem that needs to be solved. Sophia explains that she is trying to organize the schedule for the upcoming annual conference, but there is a major conflict. The keynote speaker, the most important person at the event, can only arrive on Tuesday afternoon, but the schedule has his speech set for Tuesday morning. As you listen to Sophia explain this, you need to track the problem. The core issue is time, morning versus afternoon. Liam takes a sip of his coffee and suggests a solution. He says, "Well, why don't we swap his speech with the panel discussion?" The panel discussion is scheduled for the afternoon, so if we just switch them, Everything should work out. Sophia thinks about this. You can hear the hesitation in her voice. She says, "That is a good idea, Liam, but there is another issue." The word "but" is one of the most important signposts in the English language. It tells you that the solution is not perfect. There is a complication. As a listener, your ears should perk up when you hear "but." You know that a counter-argument or a new problem is coming. Sophia explains that one of the panelists has a flight to catch in the evening, so she cannot stay late. If they move the panel to the morning, it works for the panelist. But does it work for the rest of the team? They start to brainstorm together. Liam suggests check in with the venue to see if they can extend the hours. Sophia shakes her head and says the venue is fully booked for the evening event. They are going back and forth, exploring options. This kind of conversation can be hard to follow because they are talking about hypothetical situations. They are saying things like, if we do this, then that happens. To track this, you do not need to memorize the schedule. You just need to track the emotional flow of the problem solving. First, they try idea A, which is swapping the times. Idea A fails because of the panelist's flight. Then they try idea B, which is extending the venue hours. Idea B fails because the venue is booked. Finally, Liam has a breakthrough. He snaps his fingers and says, "Wait a minute. What if we move the keynote speech to Wednesday morning instead?" It would mean changing the printed programs, but it solves the time conflict for everyone. Sophia's face lights up. She agrees that this is the best solution. In this story, the conversation moved from a problem to a failed solution, to another failed solution, and finally to a successful solution. If you can identify that they are in the brainstorming phase, you can relax. You know that they are just throwing ideas around. You do not need to commit every idea to memory because most of them will be rejected. You only need to listen closely when they finally agree on something. Now, I want to introduce you to a slightly more complex situation involving a group of friends planning a weekend trip. This will challenge your ability to track multiple speakers. We have 3 friends, Ethan, Olivia, and Noah. They are sitting in a living room, looking at a laptop screen. Ethan is the organizer of the group. He is the one clicking on the map. He suggests that they go to a cabin in the mountains near a lake. He describes the beautiful hiking trails and the fresh air. He is very enthusiastic. He uses words like amazing, peaceful, and adventure. If you are tracking Ethan's perspective, you know he wants nature and activity. Then Olivia speaks up. Olivia is a bit more cautious. She reminds the group that the weather forecast predicts rain for the entire weekend. She loves the idea of the cabin, but she is worried they will be stuck inside with nothing to do if it rains for 2 days straight. Olivia represents the practical voice in the conversation. She brings up logistics. Noah, the third friend, has a different priority. He says that he does not mind the rain, but he really wants to make sure there is a good internet connection because he has to finish an assignment for his university course on Sunday night. So now we have 3 different desires to track. Ethan wants hiking. Olivia wants good weather or indoor activities. Noah needs Wi-Fi. The conversation bounces between these 3 needs. Ethan says the cabin has a fireplace and board games, so the rain does not matter. He addresses Olivia's concern. Then he checks the listing and confirms that yes, there is high-speed internet. He addresses Noah's concern. By linking his answers to their specific worries, Ethan is trying to persuade them. As a listener, you can visualize this as a checklist. Is Olivia happy? Yes, because of the board games. Is Noah happy? Yes, because of the Wi-Fi. Once all the boxes are ticked, the group can reach a consensus. They decide to book the cabin. Listening to three people can be tricky because the voices change quickly. A great tip for this is to focus on the names. When you hear Olivia, what do you think? You know the focus is shifting to her. Also, pay attention to agreement sounds. Words like totally, exactly, I agree, or sounds like help you understand who is on the same side. Let us move on to a story that is very common for anyone living in an English-speaking country or visiting one. It is a medical appointment scenario. This requires careful listening because the details are personal and important. Let us meet a character named Lucas. Lucas has gone to see his doctor, Dr. Evans, because he has been having some trouble sleeping. The conversation begins with Dr. Evans asking open questions. She asks Lucas to describe his symptoms. Lucas explains that he finds it hard to fall asleep, and when he finally does, he wakes up many times during the night. He says this has been happening for about 3 weeks. Dr. Evans listens and then starts asking specific questions to rule out causes. This is a process of elimination. She asks if he has been drinking a lot of caffeine. Lucas admits he drinks about 5 cups of coffee a day. Dr. Evans raises her eyebrows. That is a lot, she says gently. She explains that caffeine stays in the body for a long time. Then she asks about his screen time. Does he look at his phone before bed? Lucas nods guiltily. He says he usually scrolls through social media for an hour before turning off the light. Dr. Evans explains that the blue light from the phone tricks the brain into thinking it is daytime. Here, the track-in involves connecting the cause and the effect. Cause 1, too much coffee. Effect, body is alert. Cause 2, phone light. Effect, brain thinks it is day. The doctor then gives a prescription, but not for medicine. She gives a behavioral prescription. She tells Lucas to do 2 things. First, no coffee after 2 p.m. Second, no screens 1 hour before bed. She asks him to try this for 1 week and then come back if things do not improve. The structure here is symptoms, investigation, diagnosis, advice. If you know this structure exists, you can mentally organize what you hear. When Lucas starts talking about coffee, you can label that as investigation. When the doctor starts listing rules, you label that as advice. This makes the conversation feel less like a continuous stream of words and more like a structured report. I hope you are starting to see a pattern here. Whether it is friends in a supermarket, colleagues at work, a group planning a trip, or a doctor's visit, conversations are not random. They follow logical paths. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They have conflict and resolution. They have questions and answers. When you stop worrying about every individual word and start looking for these paths, your listening comprehension improves dramatically. You stop translating in your head and start understanding the meaning directly. Now, let us talk about the emotional aspect of tracking conversations. Often, the tone of voice tells you more than the words themselves. Let us look at a story involving a couple, Henry and Bella. They are in their kitchen, making dinner together. Henry is chopping vegetables, and Bella is stirring a pot of soup. Henry says, "I spoke to my mother today." The words are simple, but the tone is heavy. His voice goes down at the end. He sounds tired. Bella stops stirring. She notices the tone. She asks, "Is everything okay?" Henry sighs and puts down the knife. He says, "She is just very lonely since Dad passed away. She wants us to visit for Christmas, but I know we plan to go to your sister's house." Here, the conflict is not just about logistics. It is about guilt and obligation. If you only listen to the words Christmas and sister, you miss the point. The point is Henry's internal struggle. Bella responds with softness. She walks over to him and puts a hand on his shoulder. She says, "We can make it work. Maybe we can split the week?" The tracking here requires emotional intelligence. You are tracking the problem, which is the schedule, but you are also tracking the feeling, which is Henry's sadness and Bella's support. Let us try one more story in this section involving a customer service call, which is something many people find terrifying. Our character is a woman named Grace. Grace has ordered a new laptop online, but it has not arrived. She calls the customer service line and speaks to a representative named Jason. The conversation starts with the verification process. Jason asks for her order number and address. This is the administrative phase. Grace gives the details clearly. Then, Jason puts her on hold for a moment to check the system. When he comes back, his tone is apologetic. He says, "I am so sorry, Grace, but it looks like there was a mix-up at the warehouse. Your order was sent to the wrong distribution center." Grace is frustrated. She explains that she needs the laptop for work by Monday. She stresses the urgency. Jason acknowledges this. He uses phrases like, "I completely understand," and "I apologize for the inconvenience." These are standard customer service phrases that signal he is trying to de-escalate the situation. He offers a solution. He says he can express ship a replacement laptop overnight, and it will arrive by Sunday morning. Grace lets out a breath of relief. She asks if there will be an extra charge for the express shipping. Jason assures her that no, because it was their mistake. The shipping is free. In this interaction, tracking the money part is crucial. Grace has a problem. No laptop. Jason finds the cause, wrong warehouse. Jason offers a solution, express shipping. Grace asks a critical question, cost. Jason gives the answer, free. Listening for specific details like cost, time, and dates is a skill you can practice. Now that we have established the basics of tracking simple interactions, we are going to step into slightly more challenging territory. We are going to explore what happens when the road gets a little bumpy, specifically when misunderstandings occur, when people tell long stories, or when debates happen. One of the scariest moments for an English learner is when a conversation suddenly stops making sense. This is usually caused by a misunderstanding, and believe it or not, native speakers experience this all the time too. Learning how to track a misunderstanding is a superpower. It allows you to press the pause button in your mind and realign your understanding. Let us look at a story involving two neighbors, Maya and Ben. They are standing by the fence in their backyards on a sunny Saturday morning. Maya is holding a gardening trowel, and Ben is washing his car. The conversation starts casually. Maya asks Ben, "Are you ready for tonight?" Ben looks up, a bit confused, and says, "Tonight? What is happening tonight?" Immediately, we have a conflict. This is a repair situation. Maya looks surprised. She says, "The dinner party at the community center. Remember? We talked about it last week." Ben hits his forehead with his hand, a gesture that universally means, "I forgot." He says, "Oh no, I completely forgot. I thought that was next Saturday." Maya shakes her head and laughs. No, it is definitely tonight. I made a lasagna. Ben looks stressed now. He says, I promised my sister I would help her move some furniture this evening. Now, listen to how they negotiate this conflict. This is the key part to track. Maya offers a compromise. She says, well, the dinner doesn't start until 7 p.m. Maybe you can help your sister in the afternoon and come a little late? Ben thinks about it. He checks his watch. He says, actually, that might work. I can go to my sister's place at 3 and be back by 7:30. Is 7:30 too late? Maya smiles and says, not at all. We will save you a plate. In this dialogue, the track moved from confusion, Ben forgot, to clarification, Maya confirmed the date, to conflict, Ben has another plan, to resolution, Ben will come late. If you get lost at the beginning when Ben says, what is happening tonight, do not panic. Just wait. The explanation always follows the confusion. In English, when someone is confused, the other person will almost always repeat the information in a clearer, simpler way. Maya said, the dinner party, tonight. She clarified the what and the when. So if you miss the first sentence, wait for the repair. The repair is often easier to understand than the original sentence because people speak more slowly when they are explaining something a second time. Let us move on to another common feature of conversation, storytelling. Often, when you are chatting with friends, one person will launch into a long story about something that happened to them. This can be difficult to follow because the structure changes from a back-and-forth dialogue to a monologue. You are listening to one person speak for a long time. The trick here is to listen for sequence markers. These are words that tell you the order of events, like first, then, after that, suddenly, and finally. Imagine two friends, Leo and Sam, sitting in a coffee shop. Leo looks exhausted. Sam asks him why he looks so tired. This question triggers a story. Leo says, "You won't believe the weekend I had. It was a disaster." This is the headline of the story. Now you know to expect a story about a bad weekend. Leo continues, "First of all, we left the house 2 hours late because I couldn't find my keys. So, step 1, late start." Leo goes on, "Then, we got stuck in terrible traffic on the highway. We sat there for an hour without moving. Step 2, traffic. Finally, we arrived at the campsite, but guess what? It started raining. Step 3, rain. And to top it all off, I realized I had forgotten the tent poles. Step 4, the climax of the disaster. Sam is listening and reacting. He says things like, "Oh no, you are kidding," and "What did you do?" These reactions are important signposts too. Leo finishes the story by saying, "So, we just drove home and ordered pizza. That was my camping trip." This is the resolution. When you listen to a long story like this, do not try to remember every detail. Just try to build a timeline in your head. Now, let us try a different challenge, tracking a debate or a difference of opinion. In these conversations, the speakers use specific words to show contrast. They use words like however, on the other hand, but, and although. These are your best friends when listening to an argument because they signal a change in direction. Let us eavesdrop on Nina and Oscar. They are colleagues discussing a new policy at their work about working from home. Nina starts by saying, "I really think we should be allowed to work from home on Fridays. It saves so much time on commuting, and I feel more productive." Track her position. She is pro-remote work. Her reasons: Time and productivity. Oscar listens and nods. He says, I see your point, Nina. It is definitely nice to avoid the traffic. This is the agreement phase. He is validating her. But then comes the shift. He says, however, I worry that if we are not in the office, we miss out on important team collaboration. Sometimes the best ideas happen when we are just chatting at our desks. Track his position. He is pro-office. His reason? Collaboration. Nina counters his argument. She says, that is true, but we have video calls for that. We can still collaborate online. Oscar replies, it isn't really the same, though. Video calls feel so formal. You can't just have a casual idea. They are going back and forth like a tennis match. By identifying the core disagreement, productivity versus collaboration, you can understand the entire conversation. Let us sharpen our skills with a scenario involving instructions. This is very practical. Imagine you are learning how to cook a new dish. You are watching a cooking demonstration by a chef named Elena, and she is teaching a student named Mark. Instructions are all about verbs and objects. Put the pan on the stove. Chop the onions. Stir the sauce. Your brain needs to focus on the action words. Elena says, okay, Mark, the first thing we need to do is heat the oil in the pan. Make sure it is not too hot, or the garlic will burn. Mark asks, is this the right amount of oil? Elena says, yes, that is perfect. Now, add the chopped onions and the garlic together. Mark follows the instruction. Then Elena says, now, this is the important part. You need to keep stirring constantly for 3 minutes. Do not stop, or it will stick. Mark starts stirring. He asks, like this? Elena says, exactly. After the onions are soft, we will add the tomatoes. Notice the sequence here. Heat oil, add onions, chop garlic, stir for 3 minutes, add tomatoes. If you are listening to this, try to visualize the actions. Imagine your own hand holding the spoon. Sometimes, conversations involve a lot of numbers and comparisons. This happens frequently when you are shopping for big items. Let us meet Alice and Ray. They are at an electronics store looking at televisions. A salesperson is helping them, but mostly they are discussing it between themselves. Alice points to a large TV and says, this one is nice, but it is $800. That is a bit over our budget. Ray looks at the tag. Yeah, but it is a 55-inch screen. The other one over there is only $600, but it is 40 inches. Is 40 inches big enough for our living room? Here, you are tracking 2 variables, price and size. Option A is expensive but big. Option B is cheap but small. Alice says, well, we sit quite far from the screen. Maybe the small one will be too hard to see. Ray agrees. You are right, but we really shouldn't spend $800 right now. They are stuck. Then Ray spots a third option. Hey, look at this one. It is 50 inches, so almost as big as the first one, but it is on sale for $700. Alice looks at it. That seems like a good compromise. It is bigger than the small one, but cheaper than the expensive one. They decide on option C. This conversation is a classic comparison structure. It usually follows the pattern: too expensive, too small, just right. Now, let us talk about the tone of hesitation. Sometimes what people don't say is just as important as what they do say. Let us go back to a workplace scenario. A manager, Mr. Henderson, is talking to an employee, Sarah. Mr. Henderson says, Sarah, I was wondering if you could lead the presentation on Friday. Sarah pauses. There is silence for 2 seconds. Then she says, Friday? Um, well, I suppose I could. That pause and the word tell you everything. She does not want to do it. Maybe she is busy, or maybe she is nervous. Mr. Henderson picks up on this signal. He says, Is Friday a bad time? We can push it to Monday if that helps. Sarah's voice changes immediately. She sounds relieved. Oh, Monday would be much better. Thank you. I have a deadline on Thursday, so I was worried about preparing. If you only read the words, I suppose I could, it looks like a yes, but the hesitation made it a no. As an English learner, you need to listen to the empty spaces. Let us look at a situation involving a stranger. This is a common anxiety, asking for help in public. Imagine a tourist named Carlos in London. He stops a woman on the street named Priya. Carlos says, Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the British Museum? Priya is friendly. She smiles and says, Of course, you are actually quite close. Now, get ready to track directions. Directions are usually a series of go and turn. Priya says, Go straight down this street until you see a large bank on the corner. It is a red brick building. Carlos nods. Okay, the bank. Priya continues, At the bank, turn left. Then walk for about 2 minutes, and you will see a park. Walk through the park, and the museum is on the other side. This is a lot of information at once. A good listener and a good speaker like Carlos will repeat the key points back to confirm. Carlos says, Okay, let me check. Straight to the bank, turn left, through the park. Priya confirms, Exactly. You can't miss it. This strategy of confirming is something you can do too. Let us take a moment to integrate what we have learned with a slightly longer, more complex story involving 3 of our characters: Daniel, Chloe, and a new friend, Mike. They are at a restaurant trying to order dinner. This scenario will require you to track multiple interactions at once. The waiter approaches the table. Daniel speaks first. I think I will have the steak, please. The waiter writes it down. Chloe says, I am a vegetarian, so I will take the pasta with tomato sauce. Mike is undecided. He is looking at the menu with a frown. The waiter waits patiently. Mike asks, Is the fish fresh today? The waiter nods enthusiastically. Yes, it just came in this morning. Mike smiles. Great, I will have the fish then. Now, the waiter asks a follow-up question to the group. Would you like any appetizers for the table? Daniel looks at Chloe and Mike. Shall we get some garlic bread? Chloe says, Yes, that sounds good. Mike adds, And maybe some calamari? Chloe makes a face. I don't eat calamari. Mike laughs. Right, sorry, I forgot. Just the garlic bread then. Daniel confirms to the waiter. Just 1 order of garlic bread, please. In this short scene, we had individual orders, a question about freshness, a group decision, a conflict, and a final resolution. To follow this, you have to switch your focus from person to person. Now, we are going to enter the final stage of our practice, the most exciting part of language learning. We are going to talk about the wild side of English. This is the English you hear in the real world, not just in textbooks. We are going to talk about group conversations where everyone speaks at once. We are going to tackle slang and informal expressions, and we are going to learn how to handle fast, connected speech. Real life is rarely quiet. Usually, when we are speaking English, there is background noise. There is music playing, cars driving by, or other people talking. Our first challenge here is the group dinner scenario. I want you to imagine a busy restaurant. The plates are clattering, Music is thumping softly in the background, and there are four friends sitting at a table: Jack, Sarah, Emily, and Tom. They are all talking, sometimes at the same time. This is a nightmare for many learners, but we are going to break it down. Jack is holding the menu, and he is trying to get everyone's attention. He asks, "So, are we sharing appetizers, or is everyone getting their own?" Emily is looking at her phone and half listening. She says, "I don't mind. Whatever you guys want." But Tom interrupts. He is hungry and enthusiastic. He says, "I am definitely getting the nachos. You guys can have some if you want, but I need nachos." Sarah, who is sitting across from him, laughs and says, "Tom, you always get nachos. Let's try something different. How about the calamari?" Now we have a conflict of preferences in a chaotic environment. Jack, who is trying to be the organizer, steps in. He says, "Okay, how about we get one order of nachos for Tom and one order of calamari for the table?" In a group conversation like this, you cannot track every single sentence. It is impossible. Instead, you need to use the spotlight technique. Imagine a spotlight in your mind. You move the spotlight to the person who is making the decision. When Emily says, "I don't mind," you can dim the spotlight on her. She is passive. When Tom says, "I need nachos," the spotlight gets bright. He is active. Finally, Jack synthesizes the information. If you only listen to Jack's final sentence, "one nachos, one calamari," you have understood the entire interaction. Now, let us talk about interruptions. In many cultures, interrupting is considered rude. But in casual English conversation, especially among friends, interrupting is often a sign of interest. It is called cooperative overlapping. Let us listen to two colleagues, David and Lisa, who are brainstorming ideas for a party. David says, "We could have a tropical theme, maybe with..." And before he can finish, Lisa jumps in. She says, "Yes, and we could have those little umbrellas in the drinks." David does not get angry. He gets more excited. He says, "Exactly. And we could tell everyone to wear Hawaiian shirts." Lisa interrupts again. "Oh, and we can play beach music." If you are listening to this and waiting for full sentences, you will get confused. They are speaking in fragments. "We could..." "Yes, and..." "Exactly." To follow this, you need to follow the energy, not just the grammar. They are building one big idea together. This leads us perfectly into the topic of slang and informal language. Slang is difficult because it changes all the time. But the secret is that you almost never need to know the exact definition of a slang word to understand the sentence. Context tells you everything. Let us look at a conversation between two younger friends, Kevin and Jess. They are walking out of a cinema after watching a movie. Kevin shakes his head and says, "Man, that movie was a drag." Jess nods and says, "Totally. I was so bored. And the ending? What a rip-off." Imagine you have never heard the words drag or rip-off. Can you still understand them? Look at the context. Kevin is shaking his head. That is a negative body language. Jess says she was bored, so drag must mean something boring or bad. Then Jess talks about the ending. She asks a rhetorical question. Kevin looks disappointed. So, rip-off must mean something disappointing or not worth the money. You did not need a dictionary. You used the emotional evidence to guess the meaning. Let us try another one. Kevin says, "I am starving. You want to grab a bite?" Jess says, "I'm broke until payday. I'll just head home." Here, grab a bite is an idiom for eating. Broke means having no money. Even if you miss broke, you hear, until payday. Payday is about money. So you can deduce that Jess cannot eat because of money. Now we are going to tackle fast speech, or connected speech. In English, we squash words together. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Let us listen to a scenario at a train station. Sophie and Chris are running late. Sophie checks the board and says, "We're gonna miss it if we don't hurry." Chris says, "What you want to do? Take the next one?" Sophie shakes her head. "No, I have to be there by 5. Let's run." If you read the script, it says, "We are going to miss it." What do you want to do? I have to be there. But if you listen, you hear, "We're gonna," "What you wanna," "I have to." Your brain needs to learn these sound patterns. To follow this conversation, focus on the stressed words. The stressed words are the nouns and verbs. Miss, hurry, next one, run. If you only catch those 4 words, you know exactly what is happening. Let us introduce a cultural element now. Sometimes, conversations rely on shared cultural knowledge. This can be tricky, but again, context is your friend. Imagine a workplace situation. The boss, Mr. Roberts, comes in and says, "Okay, team, it is crunch time. The auditors are coming tomorrow." The phrase crunch time is a sports reference, meaning the final critical moments of a game. Even if you do not know sports, you can hear the urgency in his voice. He continues, "We need to have everything spotless. No cutting corners." Cutting corners means doing things cheaply or quickly by skipping steps. An employee, Maria, asks, "Should we stay late tonight?" Mr. Roberts smiles and says, "I think we'll be pulling an all-nighter." Pulling an all-nighter means staying awake all night to work. Now, imagine you are Maria. You hear all-nighter. You might not know the phrase, but you know the context. Auditors are coming. It is urgent. So, logically, all-nighter must mean staying very late. We have looked at noise, interruptions, slang, fast speech, and cultural idioms. Now, I want to bring all of these elements together in one big, complex story. This is the final exam of our listening practice. We are going to a chaotic family reunion. There are multiple generations: grandfather Arthur, his daughter Linda, and her teenage son Sam. They are in the backyard. The barbecue is smoking, a dog is barking, and music is playing. Grandfather Arthur is sitting in a chair, telling a story. He speaks slowly, but with an old-fashioned accent. "Back in my day," he says, "we didn't have these fancy smartphones. We had to actually go to a friend's house to see if they were home." Linda is listening, but she is also flipping burgers on the grill. She is distracted. She says, "That's nice, Dad. Sam, can you grab me the ketchup?" Sam has his headphones around his neck. He speaks fast and uses slang. "Chill, Mom. It's right there. Can I go to Jason's house later? He's having a kickback." Linda frowns. "A kickback? What is that? A party?" Sam rolls his eyes. "No, it's just a few friends hanging out. Low-key. No big deal." Arthur interrupts. "A kickback? In my day, we called it a get-together. Are you going to be home for dinner?" Sam sighs. "I don't know. Maybe. Depending on if we get hungry." Linda taps the spatula on the grill. "Sam, I need a straight answer. Yes or no? Grandma is coming at 6, and she wants to see you." Sam realizes he has no choice. Okay. I'll be back by 6. But I'm leaving right after cake." This conversation is a rich tapestry of challenges. You have Arthur's storytelling, Linda's multitasking instructions, and Sam's slang and fast speech. I don't know. To follow this, You need to track the goal of each character. Linda's goal is to organize the dinner. Sam's goal is to leave. Arthur's goal is to tell his story and see his family. When Sam says kickback, you can guess it means a gathering. When Linda asks yes or no, she is forcing a resolution. The resolution is Sam returns at 6. If you tracked that specific time, you won the listening game. This ability to filter information is what separates a B1 learner from a B2 learner. A B1 learner tries to catch every drop of water in the rain. A B2 learner knows how to wear a raincoat and just look for the path forward. You do not need to catch every drop. You just need to know where you are going. Throughout this series, we have practiced this filtering. We filtered out the noise in the restaurant to hear Jack's decision. We filtered out the interruptions to hear David and Lisa's party theme. We filtered out the slang to understand that Kevin hated the movie. This filtering process is not about ignoring English. It is about prioritizing meaning over vocabulary. As we come to the end of this script, I want to give you a strategy for your future practice. It is called the 10% rule. When you listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video, or hear a song, accept that you might miss 10% of the words, maybe even 20%. Tell yourself, that is okay. If you understand the main story, the emotions, and the relationships between the people, you are successful. Do not pause the video every time you hear a new word. Let it flow. Let your brain get used to the ambiguity. Over time, that 10% will become 5%, and then 1%. But you have to be comfortable with not knowing everything first. Think about how far we have come. We started with simple one-on-one greetings. We moved to complex problem solving. And today, we tackled the chaos of real life. You have the tools now. You know about signposts. You know about tone of voice. You know about context clues. You are ready to go out there and listen to English without fear. Whether you are listening to English in Fluency, watching a Hollywood blockbuster, or chatting with a tourist in your city, remember to be a detective. Look for the clues, trust your instincts, and enjoy the journey. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you found this session helpful, please share it with a friend who is also learning. Leave a comment and tell me which story was your favorite. Was it the chaotic pizza dinner? Or maybe the awkward misunderstanding with the neighbors? I love reading your feedback because it helps me create better lessons for you. And remember, fluency is not a destination where you suddenly arrive one day and stop learning. It is a continuous path. Every conversation you listen to, every script you read, and every mistake you make is a step forward on that path. So, keep listening. Keep your ears open and your mind curious. The world is full of stories waiting for you to understand them. You are doing an amazing job. Believe in yourself, just like I believe in you. Until next time, keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep finding the joy in learning English. This is Alex from English in Fluency, signing off. Have a wonderful day and happy listening.